Hey everyone, Matthew here from the mmatt YouTube channel, just doing a quick compare and contrast of the Glock 17 Gen 3 and the Ruger SR9 version 1.2. So to start off, both pistols are polymer framed striker fired pistols, and what that means is their frames are made out of polymer or plastic, and instead of having a traditional hammer that most firearms have, you can see here this gun needs to be cocked and then the hammer drops, hits a firing pin, the firing pin hits the cartridge, and that ignites the cartridge. In a striker fired pistol, the hammer and the firing pin are one and the same. So the striker is found here, and as you can see it's under spring tension. So what happens is it's pulled back and then it's let go, and that's what strikes the cartridge in the barrel, which ignites the round and sends it along its merry way. So let's start off with the Glock. The Glock is one of the most popular and prolific firearms or duty firearms that you can find in the world today. They're very popular for a number of good reasons. One of the most important ones is that it is very simple, very easy to operate, very easy to use. It is taken down very easily, as you saw just a second ago. You simply pull back very slightly on the slide with the trigger in the down position. Pull down on this lever here on both sides of the gun, and once the magazine's out, the slide will come right off the top of the gun, and now the gun is essentially field stripped. You'll take out the spring and then take out the barrel, and now the gun is all set for cleaning. Now speaking of the barrel is 114 millimeters long, which translates to about 4.5 inches for my imperial friends to the south. The barrel has polygonal rifling. Instead of the traditional lands and grooves, the inner diameter is shaped into a spiraling polygon. And what that does is that forms a tighter seal around the bullet as it's sent down the barrel, and it doesn't deform it as much. And some say that gives you some better accuracy as well as better efficiency with your gunpowder. It is to be noted, though, that Glock does not recommend the use of lead projectiles. Copper-jacketed lead projectiles are fine, but bare lead, they say, will foul up the barrel fairly quickly and can cause some catastrophic failure. So please, if you're going to use lead bullets in a Glock, you can get an aftermarket barrel that does have the traditional lands and grooves, which of course fire lead projectiles with no problem. The firearm does have 3 safeties. A lot of people say Glocks don't have safeties. Well, they actually do. It's just that they're all integrated into the firearm and the firing process. The first one, as you can see, is this little tab in the trigger. This trigger can't be fired unless that tab is depressed. So with that tab depressed, then the trigger will fall and the gun will fire. Another thing that it has is this is called the firing pin block or firing pin safety, and what it does is it won't allow the firing pin or the striker to move forward, and as you can see here, the firing pin won't actually protrude here until this little pin is pressed, and once it's pressed, you can see that'll poke out there now, no problem, and that's what will activate the cartridge in the barrel. The third safety that is integrated is called a drop safety, and basically it means that this sear won't drop out of the way until the trigger is pulled. So if this gun is loaded, bullet in the barrel, you can drop the gun, abuse the gun, throw the gun, you can do whatever you like. The gun will not fire unless that trigger is pulled properly. The Glock 17 Gen 3 weighs 710 grams or 1.6 pounds. It has a integrated loaded chamber indicator, and that is this here. This is also the extractor. So what happens is when there is no bullet in the chamber, this tab is flush with the side of the gun. And when there is one in the chamber, it'll stick out, and you'll be able to feel that either with your finger or see that if you look at it. The sights that come with the Glock 17 are polymer, or in other words plastic. They have a white U notch in the back and then a white dot in the front. And these are interchangeable. You can get different ones. I do have some different ones from Trijicon on the way. The sights are adjustable only for windage, that's left and right. No elevation adjustment on that. The really nice thing about the Glock 17 is that they are the Ruger 1022 of the handgun world. They are extremely popular, and that of course means a lot of aftermarket parts. Okay, so let's talk about the Ruger SR9 now. Also a polymer frame striker fired, so we're going to see a lot of similarities between this and the Glock. First of all, it does weigh 750 grams or 1.7 pounds, which is just a little bit heavier than the Glock. It does have the same 3 safeties that the Glock does, so you can see here it has the trigger safety. It does also inside have the firing pin safety as well as the drop safety, but in addition to those safeties there are 2 more. The first one is here. This is the thumb safety, and with that engaged the gun won't fire. This is also an ambidextrous safety, which means that it is also located on the right side of the gun for the left-hand shooters. The other safety that this gun has is a magazine disconnect safety, and what that means is if the magazine is not in the gun will not fire. Now the gun will still go click, but the firing pin will be blocked unless the magazine is in to allow the cartridge to be ignited. Taking the SR9 down is a little bit different than the Glock. The Glock just had the little lever in the front. This one actually has a takedown pin, so I'll show you how that happens here. First of all, take out the magazine, lock the slide back, and then this pin here needs to be removed. You do that by pushing on this side of the pin first, and then pulling the pin out. After that, inside here you will see there is the ejector. Push the ejector down, and then the slide will slide off the front of the frame just like on the Glock. Inside here you can see that there is the firing pin block there. This is the magazine disconnect, and then on this side of the firearm is the drop safety just like on the Glock. Looking at the insides of the slide side by side, you can see that these are very similar firearms in the way that they've been designed. The Glock is a little bit simpler. There are not a few less moving parts in there, whereas the Ruger SR9 has just a couple of more. But essentially they do operate in the same way. They both have a striker, which is under spring tension, which fires the cartridge. The barrel on the SR9 is 105.2 millimeters long, and that .2 is very important because here in Canada, if the barrel is less than 105 millimeters, it is considered a prohibited firearm and we can't own them. The barrel does have the traditional lands and grooves rifling that you would find in any other traditional firearm. You'll remember that the Glock had a loaded chamber indicator on the side of the firearm that was integrated into the extractor. On the SR9 it is this here. So when there is a round in the chamber, this indicator will pop up, which you can check either by feeling it with your thumb or by looking at it, and it is fairly obvious when the gun is loaded. The sights on the Ruger SR9 are metal from the factory. They are steel, and they are adjustable for both windage and elevation, so you can drift the rear sight left and right for windage, and this screw here will allow you to adjust it for elevation. Another nice feature of the Ruger SR9 is the fact that it is almost completely ambidextrous. I demonstrated earlier that the safety is operable from both sides of the firearm. The other ambidextrous feature is the magazine release. So there it is from the left side and from the right side as well. The Ruger SR9 also does have an adjustable back strap. That's this feature here. If you drift out this pin, you can slide the back strap out of the gun, spin it around and reinsert it, and it allows for a completely flat back of the grip. That allows you to adjust the gun slightly to fit your hand a little bit better. One other quick thing I want to go over real briefly is the trigger pull on both of the pistols. With the Glock, it breaks, and then the reset is right there. So not much of a reset at all. With the Ruger, the trigger pulls and breaks, and then when it's reset, it goes all the way back out. The reset is very long on the Ruger. Both firearms do have an accessories rail underneath the barrel where you can attach lights, lasers, bayonets if you wish, I suppose. And other than that, that in a nutshell is the Ruger SR9 compared to the Glock 17. So up next is some footage of both guns being fired at the range where we can talk about the perceived recoil and the accuracy. A couple of things to watch for as you're watching the shooting portion of this video. Notice that there isn't much of a difference in the recoil as it's shown on the video, which is sort of surprising since the perceived recoil is actually quite a bit higher in the SR9 than it is in the Glock. And I think that has a bit to do with the back strap and the overall width of the back of the grip. On the SR9, especially if you have the back strap flipped around so that it's sort of sticking out there to give you a bigger grip, that presents quite a narrow bit of surface area that is driving that gun into your hand, and it seems like the gun is recoiling quite a bit more, and I think that may be partly due to that. The Glock has a fairly wide back strap on it. The grip is quite a bit wider at the back, and that extra surface area I think really helps to tame the recoil, and it makes the Glock quite a bit more enjoyable to shoot, at least for me anyway. As we look at the targets, you can see that the Glock does print smaller groups than the Ruger, at least in my hands. That may be different from shooter to shooter, but for me it seems to be a little bit more accurate, the Glock that is. And that may be because of the polygonal rifling, or it may be because I feel that perceived recoil being a bit lower in the Glock, and that might make it a bit more comfortable for me to shoot. The trigger in the Glock is actually heavier than the trigger in the SR9. The SR9 breaks just at 5 pounds. It is right on the line, and the Glock is closer to 6. So actually, the Glock should be a little bit less accurate if you bear in mind that usually lighter trigger pulls produce better groups, but at least in my hands, the Glock seems to be a bit more accurate. Well, I think that pretty much sums up the key differences between the Glock 17 and the Ruger SR9. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something. As always, stay safe out there. We'll catch you next time.